You're now watching a Carlos's Gaming Movie Review. Please subscribe. Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Carlos. How's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today we're going to be talking about a movie I watched recently that kind of blew my mind. I don't know if it blew my mind in a good way or a bad way though, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. The movie in question is the 1978 film Matilda. No, not that Matilda. This Matilda. You see, this Matilda stars a kangaroo who can box. Does that sound like a familiar concept? See, I don't know if as a society we're just obsessed with boxing kangaroos, or if Matilda slightly inspired the animated Kangaroo Jack spinoff. But anyways, we're here to talk about Matilda, so let's get into it. Now, the movie opens up with a shot of the Statue of Liberty, telling us that it's based in New York, and then it pans over to what I believe is the Manhattan Bridge. Then we get introduced to our first story character, a man who seems to be pulling up to a pub in his bike with a kangaroo sign wearing gloves dangling from the front. He makes a weird noise at it, and then he proceeds to open the door. He then takes us completely off guard by looking straight into the camera and talking to us, a la Ryan Gosling in The Big Short.
Come in.
This man will be our narrator. He's played by Elliot Gould. As he walks into the pub, he introduces himself as Billy Baker, or as he likes to be called,
You can call me the kid if you like.
he's an old boxer who had a record of 109 fights with only 3 losses.
They weren't the last 3 either.
He then introduces us to our main character Matilda, his greatest opponent in the ring, a boxing kangaroo.
But the greatest fighter I ever stepped into a ring with was this one. Matilda.
He then talks about how Matilda is the person, or kangaroo, who got him his pub.
Matilda got me this.
And that's when our story really starts, as we get this shot when he begins to reminisce and he starts talking about how him and Matilda first got to America. And what the holy fuck, what is that? See, this is the part where we learn that Matilda was played by a man in a kangaroo suit. A $30,000 kangaroo suit. And this movie was released in 1978. So if you take the inflation calculator, that money's worth $147,000. So yeah, they spent your mortgage on this piece of shit. Now, everyone in the movie just kind of goes along with this monstrosity being a kangaroo. But from the viewer's side, it just becomes more unnerving as the beast decides to attack an innocent hot dog vendor. See, kangaroos don't handle being hangry very well. This promptly leads to an all-out panic on the street, and a crowd quickly gathers as police officers show up to escort Matilda to the slammer, which in this case, as Billy Baker so eloquently puts it, is
Dog jail.
Now, this little incident leads our friend Billy Baker to link up with a man named Bernie. Bernie's a talent agent, or as he likes to call himself, an impresario, that he found in the newspaper. No, not this scuzzy sleazy bag of shit. That's his brother-in-law, Pinky.
In Toledo for that kind of money.
This guy. This is Bernie Bonelli, a man who could sell a crack pipe to a nun.
Throwing acts, Mr. Matson, but never one where the man's blindfolded. The girl spins on a wheel. The lights go out. He got flaming torches at the end of the knives, and the last one he throws at her got a firework inside which goes off.
He then argues with his brother-in-law on how boxing is on the out and is crooked as our friend Billy walks in.
Yeah? You looking for something? The name's Billy Baker, former welterweight champion of the British Isles.
Billy pitches himself and Matilda as
The greatest boxing act in the world, sir.
You box a lady?
he explains that Matilda isn't a lady despite his name, which was very confusing when writing the script, so if I accidentally misgender the kangaroo, please don't hang me. But yeah, basically he claims that him and Matilda are the best boxing act in the world, and of course it's met with laughs and a little bit of teasing on account of his accent.
A kangaroo? A boxing kangaroo, governor.
Billy goes on to explain that Matilda's like a son to him, and he laments over him being stuck in a dog jail. Mr. Bonelli states that due to his finances, he's unable to help, but showing he isn't completely heartless, he offers our friend Billy some food after noticing he's clearly hungry. Billy declines, stating that he can possibly eat knowing that Matilda's starving in a cell. He's a real one for that. This actually proves enough to pull at Bernie's heartstrings, as he promptly accompanies Billy to go help get Matilda out of the dog jail. Once they get to the pound, because I'm not calling it a dog jail again, they meet a cop named Eddie who decides to be an asshole and basically tells them to fuck off until a woman named Smith intervenes.
Eddie, these people are serious. They love their pet as well as you love your children.
I hate my children, Miss Smith. What's with that kangaroo?
We learn that Matilda is still in the facility despite the fact that Eddie said that she might have been gassed or euthanized or possibly given away to a zoo. But no, instead we get told by a worker that Matilda has apparently thrown some hands with one of the workers.
Out of here, but quicker, we'll gas him. He just barked one of our guys in there. You better hope he ain't dead.
He knocked him out.
Zap, one punch.
Promptly after learning that Matilda boxes, Miss Smith, whose name we now learn is Kathleen, starts arguing about how she won't allow the boxing to happen.
I said I will not permit this.
You see, we learned in a previous clip that Kathleen actually helps with the ASPCA and works against animal cruelty, so this checks out for her character. Of course, Bernie, Billy, and Matilda want to get out of there, so they promptly shove Matilda into a taxi and take off.
All right, whatever she does in that cab, you guys have to clean up.
Listen, mister, that kangaroo is as clean as you are. And he can hold his water like a camel.
Bernie then takes Matilda to a boxing gym run by a man named Mr. Donahue, and although Mr. Donahue is very reluctant at first, he agrees to take on Matilda because he's kind of fond of Bernie.
But no, it ain't necessary. The only reason I let this misbegotten creature in here is because I like you.
Thanks, Mr. Donnie.
This leads to Billy and Matilda performing their act in front of the whole boxing gym. And immediately after Matilda lands a mean left hook on Billy, the crowd goes wild and Bernie decides to run off and make a phone call. While this is happening in the background, we see Matilda throwing hands with a bunch of other boxers and showing them that she can kick some fucking ass. And then we are told that Bernie's talking to a man named Mr. Matson.
I got good news and bad news. First, the bad news, Mr. Matson.
Mr. Matson is a man who we heard mention of in one of the earlier scenes when Bernie was talking on the phone to someone about a knife throwing show.
The knife throwing act is out. You got a kangaroo. Yeah, an act with a kangaroo.
He basically says that the knife throwing act is out and that he's got a new show for him. He basically pitches the Matilda act and he says that he'll pay $500 for anyone to last 2 rounds in the match with him. Mr. Matson agrees as long as Bernie puts up the money for it. And with that, Bernie, Billy, and Matilda head out. They catch a taxi with a man named Gordon. And Bernie promptly pitches him to go into business with them.
Gordon Baum, right. Someone sent him to us. Gordon, how would you like to be in business with us?
He offers 5% of Matilda to help manage issues. After a little bit of convincing, Gordon seems to agree.
Gordon, this isn't any other businesses. It's show business.
Next, they stop by Bernie's financer on the way to Mr. Matson's, and it's here where we meet Tanya. She's a piano-playing beauty who's portrayed by Roberta Collins. Roberta Collins ironically played Matilda the Hun in the 1975 film Death Race 2000. She was a Nazi. Now, Bernie gasses her up by saying that they're going to be able to finally break into Hollywood after the Matilda act. And this gives us a little bit more exposition, basically saying that Bernie has been Tanya's talent agent as well. Although they also kind of seem to share some sort of romantic connection, but I'm not sure, it's never really confirmed. At this point, we're also introduced to a man named Lee Doherty. Now, Lee has taken an interest in Tanya, and Bernie, never being a man to turn down a good business opportunity, tells Tanya to go out with him tonight. He seems to come up with some skeezy, schemy plan that we'll find out about soon, but we don't really hear it in the scene as he just kind of like whispers it into her ear. In the next scene, we learn a little bit more about the characters as they explain that Mr. Matson's event is basically a giant carnival, and it seems to attract a reasonably sized crowd. We also learn that Tanya is indeed here with Lee Doherty, and that Gordon has brought somebody named Mr. Packhurst, who seems to be a sports writer of sorts, and he promises him basically that Lee Doherty will be there. So you can kind of see where the wheels were turning with the whole Lee Doherty thing for Bernie.
Have I ever given you a bad tip? I'm telling you, Doherty is going to be here tonight.
Soon, Billy and Matilda take the stage and they start to show off their boxing skills. And that's when the announcer gets up into the ring and announces that anybody who thinks they can go 2 rounds with Matilda will win a pot of $500.
Matson's Monster Carnival will give to anyone that wants to come up into this ring and go 2 rounds with Matilda without being knocked down. We will give them $500.
Tanya then uses some manipulation to convince Doherty to stand up and challenge Matilda.
Must be a fake. Tell him, champ, they'll listen to you. Tell him!
Lee stands up and confirms that he thinks he can fight Matilda because he thinks it's all some crazy ruse.
Are challenging Matilda?
You bet your sweet patootie I am.
After a proper handshake, which is weird to see, the fight begins. Now Matilda makes light work of the heavyweight champion, knocking him out in 37 seconds flat. The crowd goes fucking wild. We then cut to a clip of an alleged big underworld boss who goes by the name of Mr. No-No. He apparently owns Lee Doherty and is very upset by the events that transpired. They also tell us that after knocking Lee out, Matilda went and planted a kiss on Lee Doherty.
Don't kiss me again.
Apparently Billy calls it the kiss of death, which I think is just weird. There's also another scene from the animated Kangaroo Jack movie where he kisses the boxer. I think he was just taunting him there though, but just kind of weird similarities. Okay, now here's where the story gets interesting for you in case it wasn't already. Do you remember that scuzzy bastard Pinky from one of the earlier scenes?
In Toledo for that kind of money.
Okay, well he actually works with Bernie, or like works alongside him. Bernie owns the company, but Pinky like owns the building, and so he just goes with him. Anyways, the reason I'm mentioning this is that Pinky actually manages Lee Doherty. Well, him and the other wise guys that work for Mr. No-No, of course. And see, Lee Doherty was actually in the beginning of the film. Look at this clip. We see Pinky walk into this meeting, which is held by a man named Senor Mercante, who seems to be an associate of Mr. No-No. Senor Mercante lets it known that Mr. No-No is not happy at all.
This does not make No-No very happy.
Listen, boss.
Why did you let Doherty out of your sight?
And he lays into Pinky and the rest of the crew for letting Lee Doherty, 1, take the fight, and 2, just run amok drunk doing dumb shit. He then threatens their lives if this happens again.
I'll tell you, the next time this kind of thing happens again, all of your kids are going to be orphans. Is that understood?
So of course Pinky proceeds to go back and kick Bernie out of his office. He calls him a Judas and then threatens him, telling him he's basically fucking with the wrong people.
You are getting the wrong people's mad.
Okay, now remember Parkhurst from earlier, the sports writer? Right, well he summons Bernie into his office through Gordon, and he explains to him that Lee Doherty is indeed owned by Mr. No-No. He also tells Bernie that he wants to put Mr. No-No out of boxing for good.
Uncle No-No owns Doherty, kid. He's the biggest gangster in the United States, and I'm going to put him out of boxing for good.
What's that got to do with me?
And that he wants the help of Bernie, Matilda, and Billy to do it. And while Bernie is at first very reluctant, Mr. Parkhurst decides to convince him by mentioning money.
You want to make $1 million?
$1 million?
He basically tells him that anyone who is to fight Lee Doherty and win gets $1 million. And all they have to do is keep Matilda fighting and going through the ranks until they get that fight. From Mr. Parkhurst, we also learn that Kathleen Smith and the ASPCA are now working to take Bernie to court over Matilda's fighting.
You take care of Kathleen Smith from the ASPCA first. I hear on the grapevine that she's taking you to court.
She is being taken care of immediately.
So of course Bernie uses a combination of walking stray dogs and a sad attempt at flirting to try to get Miss Kathleen Smith to drop the lawsuit.
How tall are you?
What?
I mean, you sure got long legs for a lady your size, you know that?
She promptly declines.
I can tell you this, I've never been so inspired to stop anyone as I am now, Mr. Benelli.
After this, Bernie convinces Gordon to sell his cab, and instead they buy a tricked out van for Matilda. I mean, this thing is sick. It's like a Ford Aerostar, but it's got Matilda painted on the side, and it's even got this little bubble for her to pop her head out of.
Slowly working our way to a championship fight. We went to some very strange places.
They basically take this tricked out van and travel the country as Matilda rises through the ranks, knocking out every opponent in the first round. Then randomly we get this like haphazardly thrown advertisement plays in the middle of it, which is this McDonald's clip.
Thanks.
Oh, just a minute, sir.
Oh, that's a Sunday for Matilda.
Thank you, come back again.
Who would randomly insert advertising in the middle of their work like that? Did somebody say shameless plug? Great, because today's sponsor is Dubby. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know who Dubby is, so I'll make this very fast. Dubby is an energy drink company who sells these powder tubs. They sell a bunch of merch. I'm not wearing any right now, but they do sell these shaker cups, which are freaking fire. Dubby sets themselves apart by being a no calorie, no sugar added kind of company. They only have the essentials that you need, and instead of pumping extra caffeine into your stuff to make you all jittery and crazy, they instead just use clean ingredients like their Neurofactor, which is actually made from high quality cherry coffee extracts. Now look, I won't hold you any longer. I know you want to get back to the video, so here's the thing. Go to dubby.gg, get your merch, get your shaker cups, get your starter pack for $14.99, and then use the code TheDon10 at checkout to get 10% off. If you do, I appreciate you for supporting the channel. channel. If you don't, that's fine. Just leave me a like or a comment or subscribe, and I will see you guys now. Now, after that bit of shameless advertising, we get a little bit more exposition as Kathleen shows up to Oklahoma where they are performing that night.
Hello. What are you doing?
Kathleen and Bernie have a conversation about how she's been trying to stop his fight there in Oklahoma and in all the other states, but in Oklahoma specifically, they seem to have denied it.
I'm trying to get an injunction to stop this fight.
Oh.
They wouldn't grant it.
Oh.
Bernie, of course, gives her a smug smile, but this doesn't last very long as Kathleen then explains that she knows their next fight is in Los Angeles, and it just happens to be that the boxing commissioner for California is her brother.
I read in the papers where your next fight is in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's right. Why?
Oh, my brother's the boxing commissioner of the state of California.
This, of course, presents a problem for our protagonist. So being the sane, completely reasonable man that he is, Bernie proceeds to break into Kathleen's hotel room by bribing the room service person. And of course he surprises her right as she gets out of the shower. Not creepy at all.
Get out!
He then continues to insist that he wants to be friends as he tries to seduce her?
Listen, I want to be friends. Can we be friends?
No! Get out!
Most women, when they come out of the shower and they're in a bathrobe and their hair's like that, are supposed to look pretty, but they never do. You do.
Honestly, it comes off more rapey and creepy, kind of like in the same similar way that Sean Connery's 007 comes off as a little rapey and creepy, you know?
It's not great, but it's friendly. It's not great, but it's friendly.
I never thought that it was possible to hate anybody as much as I hate you, but I have achieved the impossible. When are you going to give it up?
And despite almost forcing himself on Kathleen and throwing a shoe at her head,
Here, have a shoe. I'll send you a bill in the morning.
he then tries to appeal to her human side by basically saying that Billy would be homeless and would essentially have nothing if he didn't get Matilda fights. But she doesn't buy it and kicks him out, although she is smiling by the end of the encounter, meaning that she likely has found the charm to Bernie, I guess. Next, we get a scene where a couple of Mr. No-No's men actually have caught up to Matilda and the crew in Oklahoma, and they attempt to kidnap Matilda with a net while he's out on his morning jog with Gordon.
It's concrete kids for us,
Hey,
you know.
I thought it was I gave you a
Stupid,
stupid.
Come on, would you please?
All right. Okay. And when I give the signal, drop it right here. All right, we here.
This results in a pretty funny scene where Matilda's choking out a mobster and ends up chasing off the other two.
Troy! Oh, what is this, please? Go! He's choking me! Oh, please, choke!
Now we gotta get McCarthy out.
What's the problem? Simple.
Oh, get out of this! Oh, you idiot, Pedro!
Stop it, hit the one with the big ears.
I'll hit you with your big ears. I'm gonna feel around. When I don't feel no fire, Tito's gonna lift up the net and we're gonna let you out. Magabish!
All right, get out! Get out!
Get out!
I'm still in here! Hey, you!
Move! Let's get out of here! Go!
Matilda goes on to fight Cowboy Joe that night and of course knocks him out in the first round. And then the crew heads out to California, where they need to appeal to the boxing commissioner and get a license. Billy asks Bernie to please not upset him, as they really need it, considering they've come all this way to box in California. The boxing commissioner, of course, proceeds to decline their fight.
Proposed to stage a 10-round fight between a former middleweight champion, Cyclone Roberts of Peoria, and a Kangaroo.
That's right.
And you're asking us to issue a license for this? What do you take us for, Mr. Benelli?
Bernie gets mad at the commissioner and proceeds to spit a pretty fire response back at him.
We'll not allow that kind of a freak show in this state. Take your circus and get out of town.
I told your sister, and now I'm telling you. You don't run this world because you don't own it.
Imagine this dude telling you he's been with your sister, bro. Fuck that. Bernie, frustrated by all of this, of course, tells his crew that he's not one to be stopped. And so he plans to go see someone named Herman Kaplan, who apparently runs a large marketing agency.
Who do those people think they are? Freak show. I ain't been around for all these years to have that brother and sister act stop us now. Nothing stops Spinelli. Take me to Herman Kaplan.
Who's Herman Kaplan?
A friend.
What does he do, Bernie?
He runs a big advertising agency.
Bernie somehow convinces Herman Kaplan to let them have a television show. In said television show is where Matilda would fight Cyclone Roberts. Cyclone being the last opponent that they need until they fight Lee Doherty. Now I know this part's a little bit confusing, but basically it's like they took a sitcom and in the middle of it put a boxing match in which Matilda has to fight Cyclone Roberts for a title or for some money that they're going to give to the sitcom characters. They basically made it a fake phony TV show fight, but realistically it was able to get them that approval to go on and fight Lee Doherty. We also get a pretty hilarious scene of Senor Mercante explaining to his wise guys that because Matilda has a tail, she has an advantage. Basically it's like a third leg that helps her punch more or something.
He is a human being. He has 2 legs. Huh? See the dots? 1, 2.
Now, Senor Mercante wants to take no chances at Matilda beating Lee Doherty, so instead of reporting it to the boxing commissioners, instead he just decides to send some of his guys to go cut Matilda's tail off.
While Doherty's only fighting with 2 dots. 1, 2.
1, 2. That ain't fair. I'm gonna call the commissioner.
And what are you gonna tell the commissioner?
About the extra dot.
Oh, you stupid. You cut off the head of a snake and nobody dies. You cut off the tail of a kangaroo, and what happens? Well, come on, what happens? Huh? He loses his dot. His extra dot.
It cuts to the next clip where we now have Bernie in his hotel room and he seems to have gotten a gift. When he opens said gift, there's a letter inside from Kathleen. In the letter, she apologizes for getting the fight called off and also invites him to dinner. She also includes a high heel shoe, kind of like calling back to the whole shoe throwing incident from earlier. Bernie proceeds to go up to Kathleen's room and manipulate her. He basically just like guilt trips her and is rubbing her nose into the whole fact that now he's going to be a nobody because he can no longer fight. This is again adding to his creep factor, especially knowing that he actually is going to still have Matilda fight. She's just going to do it on a TV show, which at this point Kathleen doesn't know and isn't aware of.
Please, come in. Are you all right? Would you like something to eat?
I don't want to eat.
Drink. Maybe you'd like something to drink.
What difference does it make?
And of course she tries to make him feel better by stroking his ego and his back and maybe I guess even something else.
Oh, no. Shh. I think you should just relax. Just relax for a little while, okay?
Alright, so it's the next day and we cut back to the wise guys who are now ducking behind a car, plotting on how they're going to cut off Matilda's tail. They also have this like weirdly wholesome exchange.
I know what I'm supposed to do, so you're stupid.
No, stupid. I'm just checking. Why you always get upset about everything?
When I'm through, the Kangaroo's in too. I love you.
So basically, they attempt to pull this off by having one of them go around and get an autograph from Matilda while the other one sneaks up behind her and cuts her tail off. This, of course, doesn't go quite according to plan.
Thanks a lot, really. I really appreciated that.
Ah, look at you.
We then cut to Matilda's TV appearance where we can see her knock out her opponent in the first round. We can see various characters watching her, including Kathleen and the Wise Guys.
And here we are live from Olympia Auditorium, where the boxing event you've all been waiting for is about to begin. Matilda versus Cyclone Roberts. Cyclone comes out very cautiously. He knows Matilda can hit. He throws a jab. Whoa, way short. Cyclone dancing around now. Cyclone steps up, throws a jab. Matilda comes back with a devastating hook to the head. Cyclone is down.
Kathleen, after realizing she's been had, throws a remote angrily.
They love it.
The Wise Guys have a similar reaction and proceed to throw an innocent TV out the window. Bernie and Billy proceed to go meet with Packhurst back in New York. And Packhurst pulls the biggest switcheroo on them by telling him he has good news and he has bad news. You see, the good news is that Matilda did indeed get her championship match against Doherty.
Hey!
We've done it, buddy. We've done it.
Bad news is...
Bad news is that they will not get paid for it.
You're all working for free.
In fact, nobody gets paid for it. The only thing they get free out of it is food. You see, the only way that Packhurst was able to convince Mr. Nono to let Doherty fight Matilda was to basically make it a charity match.
Nobody gets anything except the free food fund for hungry children in New York.
Well, what about a hungry trainer and a hungry man?
The $1 million was going to a charity to help stop hungry children. And although Bernie is pissed about this, he ultimately lets Billy decide what to do.
Billy, Mr. Parkhurst here knew all the time that I would go along with it. He could spot a sucker like me a mile away chasing a dream, but I ain't talking for you or Matilda.
Billy says that he will trust Bernie's judgment and will do anything that Bernie agrees to because he was basically the only person that's ever been nice to Matilda and him.
Well, it's whatever you say, Bernie. You're the only one that's ever been nice to Matilda and me.
Bernie once again shows us his emotional side as he decides to go ahead and do it because he does want to clean up the sport of boxing and he also does still want to help children.
It's going to be Matilda's toughest fight. But the man's right about cleaning up the sport and helping the kids.
Well, it's all right by Matilda and me if you say so, Bernie. You'd never do anything wrong to us.
Mr. Parkhurst, you got yourself the fight of the century to write about.
Next, we see a fight training montage that is deserving of a Rocky soundtrack. We also get a clip of Bernie asking Matilda the question we've all been wondering this whole time.
You funny beast. Matilda. Matilda, where are you coming from, Matilda? Who made you? And why?
Now, after this heartwarming moment between Bernie and Matilda, we cut to Bernie walking in the woods as he's approached by two of Mr. Nono's Wise Guys.
Oh, hello. How are you? Happy to see you.
How have you been?
Oh, I've been fine. How are you? Everything is wonderful.
They kidnap him at gunpoint and take him to go meet Senor Mercante. Senor Mercante offers Bernie Lee Doherty's contract as long as he can have Matilda's contract. And Bernie proceeds to, of course, decline it, at which point the Wise Guys hold him at gunpoint.
You, Benelli, you've caused me a lot of grief. You've taken apart an organization that took me years to develop. My men, they're morons. So, Uncle Nono has to take care of business himself. This is for you. I've already signed it. You are now the owner of Lee Doherty after the fight tomorrow night. This one here, you signed. And I own Matilda at the same time. You want to sign?
You ain't thinking clear. Kill me and Billy makes Matilda fight anyways. You can't win.
When we get through with you, we're going back to that camp and we whack out the Englishman and the Kangaroo.
Even you couldn't take the heat that had come down after that. You didn't get to the top doing stuff like that.
But being the smart businessman that he is, Bernie manages to talk himself out of an early shallow grave.
You're all right, kid. I like you. Like your style. If you ever decide to get out of the boxing racket, you got a position with me in my organization. No, I mean it. Strictly legit. Straight.
If only the kangaroo suit was that convincing. Macante, being a sleaze, also decides to put $1 million against his own boxer and bets it on Matilda.
I want you to call Reno and tell him I want to lay $1 million on the Kangaroo tomorrow.
And finally, we cut to fight night, the night we've all been waiting for. We see as Doherty starts to walk towards the ring, and then we flash immediately over to Billy, who looks very concerned and nervous.
Champion of the world is on his way to the ring, and there's a mixed reaction from the crowd. A lot of them are for him.
Billy, what's wrong?
You see, Billy proceeds to randomly, out of nowhere, tell Bernie that if a kangaroo gets hit once, they will never fight again. It's kind of crazy that they just spring this on us at the end of the movie. I guess Billy's logic is that kangaroos out in the wild only fight for dominance, so once they've been hit and they've been hit hard, they pretty much just stop. They don't fight anymore. They just decide, hey, you know what, fuck it. You're better than me, dude. I don't want any of this beef.
Well, I don't know how to tell you. I know I should have told you before.
Well, come on. Nothing could be that bad. We made it to the top, didn't we?
Yeah. Bernie, if a kangaroo is hit, you won't fight anymore.
You told me they boxed natural in their wild state, that you was merely using what they did natural for the act.
That's right, they do. But it's not boxing as we know it. When kangaroos box, they don't do it to hurt each other.
Now, this is kind of a weird way to add tension for the film, but the film kind of needs it at this point. I mean, they just kind of resolved the biggest antagonist and the biggest plot point and climax for the film with a single handshake and meeting between Senor Macante and Bernie. But it does just seem kind of rushed and slapped together at the very end of the film, especially considering they've been on the road for more than 6 months now, and this has always been a risk, but Billy just still decided not to say shit until this moment. It just feels kind of lazy and forced to me, but whatever. So we cut back to the ring as Matilda gets in and starts getting ready to kick some ass. Also, something that gets revealed to us now is that Tanya seems to now be Doherty's biggest fan. I guess she felt bad about pitting him against the kangaroo while he was drunk and ruining his reputation, so now she follows him around everywhere like a stray dog. Now this fight starts well as Matilda dodges a couple of Doherty's punches and gives him a couple punches right back.
Another one is short. Apparently, Matilda's a fine boxer and a good hitter. The champion misses over the head, takes the right that drives him back. Both hands to the body by Matilda.
This is followed by a couple of questionable seconds as Doherty trips over Matilda's tail and feet.
Right here in round one. He's got his feet on now. The champion is being now. The referee, George Laska, gets them apart. Now at long range again. Matilda bounds in. The champion steps away, almost trips over Matilda's feet, but he does not go down.
But soon Matilda sinks Doherty into the ropes with another great combo. The referee then begins to count.
And he's trying to get up now as the count reaches 6, 7, 8. He is up.
Doherty does get up at the 8-second mark, but is quickly put back down.
He's moving around the ring, and he comes back with a left and
but this time the bell saves him as they return to the corners.
God, that second punch. Doherty doesn't even know where he is. It might be over.
The bell has saved the champion. They're very happy.
Round 2 begins and they scrap a little bit more. Matilda still dodging all the attacks and eventually punches Doherty so hard that he flies out of the ring.
The champion trips over Matilda's feet. Matilda on him again. A jab, a left and a right to the jaw. And the champion is driven out of the ring. He rolls out of the ring. The champion...
However, the bells ring once again and they save Doherty from another knockout. In round 3, we have another punishing match for Doherty as Matilda keeps wailing on him with lefts and rights. I will say that the movie cuts it very close with the filming by saying that Matilda didn't get hit once, because there's a couple of times where they write it off as she blocked or she dodged or she moved out of the way, but you can kind of tell that he definitely makes some kind of contact. But anyways, Matilda manages to knock Doherty down one more time, and this time the count goes all the way to 9 before the bell rings and saves him once again.
Puts both hands to the body and then to the head as Matilda gives it no rest. The champion is taking a terrible beating, a left hook to the jaw. And he is down again. The champion is down again. I don't know if he's going to make it. Matilda pounds across him. The referee is counting over the champion. 4, 5, 6, 7. He's trying to get up. 8. He's on his knees. 9. And the bell saves him again.
Now I gotta say, at this point I'm feeling a little bad for Doherty, who's barely conscious in his corner. And I'm not the only one. You see, the crowd in the movie at this point has seemed to change their opinion in the past round or so. And they start rooting for the champion once again as he attempts to hold on to his title for dear life.
Something definite has happened here. I don't believe it. The crowd started rooting for Matilda at the start of the fight. They have now changed.
The 4th round commences like the other 3 as Matilda dodges a couple of attacks by Doherty and lands a couple good ones of her own, but then something happens. You see, Doherty manages to land a punch on Matilda's stomach.
Matilda can't figure him out. The champion goes in and holds on. Doherty is still holding on. The challenger is lifted. Doherty gets the straight, lifts him up, drives the right hand to the body, and the challenger is hurt.
Matilda winces and whines. Right as this happened, Matilda looks into the eyes of Doherty, who seems to stop and recognize the surrenderance of Matilda.
He's been hit tonight. The tide has turned. The challenger is hurt. Matilda stands.
And of course, Billy watches from the sidelines, terrified that his kangaroo has now been rendered defenseless. Although Doherty doesn't seem to want to continue the fight, the referee calls for him to get back in there.
The referee waves the champion in. He's moving in on Matilda.
And so he does, but before he can hit Matilda, Bernie throws out a white towel into the ring, signifying the surrenderance.
But wait, that's always the
Billy jumps into the ring and hugs Matilda. It's a bittersweet moment where you see the compassion that Bernie and Billy had to have for Matilda. However, you're also acknowledging that his fighting career is essentially over. Kathleen, who is also at the event, jumps into the ring and hugs Bernie, telling him that she loves him.
I love you.
This is likely due to the fact that Bernie stopped the fight the minute that Matilda got hit. And then we get a nice shot of Matilda and Doherty sharing a hug, right as the fight is now over.
Suddenly they felt threatened. Man doesn't just survive, Al. He's got to prevail.
The scene ends with Matilda and Billy walking out of the arena as the crowd cheers and the band plays in the background. And of course, Doherty standing victorious in the middle of the ring. He waves goodbye to Matilda, and Matilda acknowledges him back. We then cut to the future where our narrator starts to close out the film for us. He goes through a classic, everyone had a happy ending, here's where they are now.
Well, Bernie is now Doherty's manager. And you won't believe this, but Pinky is his assistant. Bernie married Kathleen, and he's very successful. Well, they got a beautiful house and 4 gorgeous kids.
Basically explains that Bernie is now Doherty's manager, that Pinky has become Bernie's assistant. Bernie also ended up marrying Kathleen and has a beautiful home and 4 stinky kids. Mr. Packhurst, the sports writer from earlier who, helped kind of manage the career along, ended up getting a bunch of awards, and he has now become a managing editor for a newspaper. And Tanya is now regularly singing in Las Vegas when she's not visiting Doherty, who she's still dating. And of course we have our cab driver turned van driver, who is now the VP of William Morris, Gordon. And then we get the biggest twist of them all. Matilda is now living with Mr. Nono's family. You see, apparently Matilda appealed to Mr. Nono's softer side during the fight, and Mr. Nono decided to retire and move his family to South America, where they now farm kangaroos. And this is the part that confuses me, because you remember how I mentioned Senor Mercante? See, that's what they call this guy, but apparently he's Mr. Nono, which means that he talks about himself in the third person. That's why I thought it was somebody else, but I guess he's just chill like that and I didn't realize.
This does not make Nono very happy.
But anyways, the resolution that we get is that he now owns Matilda and he owns a farm and he's happy and his family's happy. Billy then shows us a baby kangaroo named Junior, because apparently Matilda's been hitting them kangaroo back shots down in South America and has not popped out a child.
Uncle Bernie be along in a minute.
He talks to the little Roo and tells him that Uncle Bernie will be there soon. And then we cut to a scene of Bernie and his 4 stinky kids and wife Kathleen outside waiting to pick up the Roo.
I want to hold Junior! I want to hold him! I want to touch him!
He's had his milk and his candy bar. Children, today's a very, very special treat because I love you all. Today...
Bernie makes a comment about going to the gym with the baby Roo. Kathleen gives him shit for this and says that it's unethical. And Bernie references and confirms to us that he is the son of Matilda. He's not just a regular kangaroo. The Bonelli family says goodbye to Billy and he waves them off as they drive away. Billy smiles as he sees a red balloon floating off into the sky and looks right at the camera as he says,
Life's grand, isn't it?
When I'm with you, every day is a brand new day.
Now, what did I think of this movie? It was good. I liked it. I mean, is it weird? Sure. Is it dated? Yeah. Does the kangaroo suit terrify me? Absolutely. However, there's definitely a charm to this. I always love watching movies from the 1970s because you can definitely tell it was filmed in the 1970s. A perfect example of a movie that kind of hits this vibe is like the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know, something about the cameras from that era just have this like nostalgic, almost like a portal into a past world that we can no longer access. I think it's a good family film if your kids can get past the kangaroo nightmares and you're willing to show them the creepy, rapey Bernie scenes. But anyways, what do you think? Tell me down in the comments if you would watch this movie, or if you have seen this movie, tell me down in the comments what you thought of it. My name is Carlos, and I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please don't forget to leave a like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with it. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what else you want me to react to, if you have another movie, a series, a short, whatever. Or if you just have another style of video you want to see, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll check it out. But anyways, until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys soon.